Hello everybody. This is video number 2 in my teacher dedication series. And if you haven't heard of that, it's because I did the first one a long time ago and just never did the second one. So today, to get that ball rolling, we're going to talk about my very last teacher. His name is Richard Schaffer. Richard Schaffer was, when I moved to Houston, he was a second trumpet player in the Houston Symphony. And uh, at the time, I was in pretty bad shape financially. I had a intense hunger for learning more, getting better on my trumpet and all that stuff. But I was out of money. And in fact, I went, I think, a year and a half without any lessons at all. And then finally got to where teaching lessons and doing gigs, I finally got to where I could afford to go to a junior college. And at that time, Richard Schaffer was teaching at the closest junior college to where I lived. And that was perfect. It was, I consider myself extremely blessed to be able to take that high of a level of trumpet lesson at a junior college. That's why I'm laughing and smiling right now, is because it was a junior college. And sometimes I don't think that the people back then knew just how great a teacher he was. I mean, of course he's a great player, second trumpet in the Houston Symphony. Of course he's a great player, but he's also a tremendous teacher. Anyway, so what I want to talk about is what kind of an impact he made in my career. See, that's what this series is supposed to be about. I want to tell you about my teachers, and then I want you to go out and find your teachers. Part of the reason for this video series is to encourage you to get lessons. If you're not studying with somebody, listen to this video, watch this video, and then go out and find somebody that can do for you what Dick Schaffer did for me. Okay? So let me tell you a little bit about what his situation was at the time in the orchestra, because the orchestra had gone through different ins and outs and ups and downs. And at the time when I was taking lessons with him, they were having to do a lot of extra stuff to pad their paychecks. So they were doing opera stuff. They were doing Thursday night park concerts and stuff like that. And part of the value that I got in the lessons was hearing him talk about the struggles he was having with the orchestra because of the demands that they had. And in fact, if it wasn't for those struggles, I think a lot of the stuff I teach today is based on the stories he told me about, because before I started taking lessons with him, I'd never heard a serious trumpet player say, "Oh, I'm going to take a couple days off." Here you got some guy in the Houston Symphony saying you're going to take time off. And before that, I thought that's like just not done, right? Well, it is done. Okay, it is done. That whole thing, don't ever take a day off. And there's a video coming out, or if maybe it's already out. I haven't decided what order these are going to be posted in, but I have a video now that I am releasing real close to this one, where I talk about music as a god, as an idol, and that practicing trumpet can be, it's not automatically, but it can be idol worship. And I think one of the signs that you are worshiping the trumpet god is that you're not taking any time off. That's how I see it. And if it wasn't for my time with Dick Schaffer, I don't think I would have come to this realization as quickly as I did. So let me tell you what the lessons were like. Because at the time, I really wanted to be an orchestral player. And I'm not going to go into why I ended up not doing that. And sometimes, sometimes I feel bad for almost wasting his time because he invested so much into me. He invested what I think the term that I used to describe how he taught me was over and above the call of duty. He invested so much more. I got lessons on the breaks. I got, all through the summer, I got lessons. If the school was out that week, I got a lesson. Over Christmas break, I got lessons. He made sure that we met weekly. And, I was hungry to make an orchestra, and he was hungry to help. And so, yeah, sometimes I feel bad that he invested all of that. And if you look at it just from that perspective, you can say, it was all for nothing. But it wasn't. That's the thing. Is okay. So I didn't take the orchestra route, but so much of what I'm doing today is is not only as a performer, yes, as a performer too, but also as a teacher. So much of what I'm doing today is rooted in my time with Dick Schaffer. Okay, so let me tell you about the lessons. Um, so I would go to the lesson, and we would normally have a conconi, an etude, and some excerpts. That's we didn't do a lot. And to my memory, I don't remember us doing a lot of exercises. Okay, but we did lyrical studies. We did etudes like the beach. And I'll tell you what, we stayed on the one etude from the beach book for 6 months. I'm not exaggerating. We were in that etude for 6 months. And I can tell you this, if he hadn't spent that 6 months of working on that etude with me over and over again, what came out of that with the articulation was career changing. Yes, it would have helped me with the orchestra stuff. It would have been amazing with the orchestra stuff. And when I do play classical music today, I didn't stop playing classical. I just stopped pursuing an orchestra. In my opinion, they're related, but not the same thing. Okay, but he didn't just help me play classical music. That etude at the end of that 6 months, when I finally got it, transformed the way I played everything. It made me a better lead player. It made me a better salsa player. It made me a better cumbia player. At the time, I was in a cumbia band, so and stuff like that. So it just opened up my world, my musical world, and that's just one etude. There were other things that we did too that were just as transformational as that. Okay, so, and then working on the excerpts. You know what? I'm going to tell you, if you want to be an orchestra player, study with someone who plays in an orchestra, all right? You know, um, if you, when I look back at the time that we talked about the excerpts, first of all, let's not even call them excerpts. I don't think, now we may have used the word excerpts, but we didn't learn excerpts. We learned parts. And, I hope, um, I hope you're watching this, right? And if you want to leave a comment down below, um, to tell me, clarify some of the stuff I'm sharing. If you remember it differently from I do, I hope you're watching this. But um, the way I remember it, we didn't do excerpts. We learned the part, and in fact, we didn't learn just that part. We uh, we got recordings to listen to, um, and you know, we just dove into the music all the way so that it was contextual. And if you're not getting that, if someone's teaching you the excerpts, I think you're getting a raw deal. And I can say that now because of my time with Dick Schaffer. And so yeah, the lessons, I think, now also, and I can say this about all my teachers. I was fortunate that way, but Dick Schaffer being my last teacher, he held me to a standard that nobody else had ever held me to before. So in that regard, it was wonderful there too. If something wasn't good enough, there was no qualms about saying so. If it was horrible, I was told that it was horrible. And so yeah, so just in terms of the musical stuff, and I already told you about the stuff he would relate to me about what he was doing. I remember one thing that was also um, career changing. Excuse me. I remember one thing when he told me that he was on the panel that was there when Mike Sachs was auditioning, and he says that it was unanimous that you know that they wanted him in the orchestra. And my question to him was, what made it unanimous? And I think I was expecting something along the lines of, he did this or that, like, in the way he played. But what he said was that Mike Sachs played in a way that you had no doubt that he was going to nail it. You knew he was going to nail it. That it was going to be right, and it was going to be um, everything that it needed to be. You just had this, listening to him, you just had this deep down knowledge that he was going to nail it. And so, and even though I didn't do orchestra after all, isn't that how we want to be? Isn't that what we want to do for the people we work for? We want to give them that. That's what I'm striving for today. I want to be what what Dick Schaffer saw in Mike Sachs. I want to be that guy. I'm not there yet. I may never get there, but that's what I'm striving for. And so yes, and you know, in fact, I hadn't thought of this before. I'm always telling my students about confidence, and I tell them it's not an emotional confidence, right? I think that's the confidence I'm talking about. It's so my understanding when he told me that story, my understanding was that it wasn't an emotional thing, that it was a practical knowledge, that you just knew he wasn't going to frack it, right? All right. So not an emotional, not, oh, I can trust you. Nothing like that. It was a matter of business. He nails it, nails it, nails it, nails it. You just know he's gonna nail it again. That's how I teach my students. That's what we want to do. Um, and there's other things that he taught me, about the audition process. Um, I was struggling with nerves at the time, stage fright. And I remember what he told me about taking your goods to market. He says that's all the audition is. You're taking what you have and you're displaying them in the market. If that orchestra wants to hire you, fine. If they don't, pack it up, go to the next one. Right? why why can't we all look at it that way, right? That's the way it should be. That's the way it should be. All right? So, and you know what? I don't want to close this video without now also saying that I wouldn't be here today where I am today as a publisher if it wasn't for his encouragement. He was the first person to get excited about my books. And every book that came out in the beginning, he, and in fact, not even the beginning, I sent him the duet book when it was done and some of the other things. Um, and yeah, so he was very happy about the duet book and stuff like that. So yes, he's always been, I call him my champion, right? And look at the context here. He was doing this for me in a time when I was completely washed out. I was about as low as I could get at that point in my career. Um, Pretty much a failure in most areas of my life. Financially a failure, musically a failure. Um, and to have somebody during that time step up and say, you know what, I see value in what you're doing. He had his students working out of my first, not my first book, my second book. He liked my flow studies book. He kept encouraging me. I brought some etudes into the lessons to help me with some of the struggles I had with some of the etudes, not etudes, some of the excerpts, and and he encouraged me to write a book with these etudes in it. And yes, we're still selling that book. That book, it's not one of my biggest sellers, but that book has sold, you know. I'll tell you what, let's put it this way. With how much it cost me to pay for lessons, um, the books that I've sold have way, way, way more than covered whatever it cost me to take lessons back then. Uh, I've been selling books now since 1990. And so that's a lot of years. That's 18 years. I don't know why my math was failing there. Um, that's not 18 years. That's 28 years. That's why my math is failing me. I skipped a whole decade. Yeah, 28 years of selling books. You know that I got more than my money's worth back from those lessons, right? So, but anyway, he didn't have to support my publishing as earnestly as he did. That wasn't necessarily part of his job, so to speak, and I'm sure he didn't think of it as a job. Um, but that's why I say he went so far beyond what you would think a teacher would do. He brought me original parts from the orchestra, stuff like that. He just, and just considering the time that it was and how hard times were then, it really just really made a difference, a huge difference. And that's why we're making these videos. I mean, think about it. What if he wasn't there? What if he wasn't there for me when I needed him? What if I didn't take lessons? What if I didn't seek him out? Or what if he said no? I would be in a very, very different place right now. And so I want you to think about where you are, what your struggles you're going through right now. And if you don't have a teacher, then it's time to go get a teacher. Find a teacher that believes in you the way Dick Schaffer believed in me. If you do have a teacher, tell your teacher how much you appreciate what he or she does for you. Because that's important. That's important. I really believe that's important. That's why we're doing this. All right. So anyway, I want to thank you again, Dick Schaffer, for all that you did for me. It's still paying dividends in my life and my career. And my gratitude for you will never be um, anything less than my greatest sincerity. I I I often uh, think about where I am today and how much of a difference you made to help get me here. All right. Anyway, God bless you guys. Um, be thinking about this stuff. Be thinking about what your teachers are for you. And if you don't have a teacher, go get one. All right. God bless you. See you on the next video.